Thank you for tuning in to watch our Invest Greater Fort Lauderdale launch conference. You're about to watch panel number 2, Staying Sustainable, How Fort Lauderdale Should Balance Smart Growth and Demand. Enjoy.
Bonjour. Buenos dias. Guten Tag. How are you? You doing good? Good morning. All right. Wow. You're all juiced up. You're all trying to get out of here because you're going to go to your favorite restaurant, which is absolutely great. You know, of course, it's here at the Riverside Hotel. It's your favorite restaurant. Shameless plug. Well, esteemed panel, it's nice to have all of you guys here, and would like to do some self-introductions first. You know, it's interesting. Our topic is about live, work, play, right? What is the recipe? Ta-dum-tum, you know, restaurant recipe, hello, for sustainable and diverse growth in Greater Fort Lauderdale and how to get there. And I want to change that actually a little bit. It is actually live, work, play, visit, because we have no state income tax. So when you see those fine visitors out there, greet them with all your fingers, right? Because we want to keep it that way. But introductions first. Michelle, I'm going to start with you on the far. If you could just introduce yourself.
Yes, absolutely. My name is Michelle Sadeghy, and I'm the Director of Energy Tax Credits and Incentives at Kaufman Rossin. I'm happy to be here today. I'm actually an engineer, contrary to popular belief that all people at Kaufman Rossin are accountants. I am not, so don't come to me with your tax questions. I'm a mechanical engineer by training, and my background's in building energy efficiency. So I did energy consulting for the design of buildings, working with architects and engineers to help optimize their building designs. Now I've stepped into the tax world to help these same projects go after energy efficiency tax credits and incentives. So happy to be here and looking forward to the conversation.
Okay, thank you, Michelle, and welcome. Mr. President?
George Hanbury, President, Nova Southeastern University. I've been at the university about 27 years, first as a chief operating officer, and then for the last 14 years as its president and CEO. Prior to that, I was 30 years in 4 municipalities, Norfolk, Virginia, Portsmouth, Virginia, Virginia Beach, Virginia, and then Fort Lauderdale, Florida. So a 30-year career in public service, and in the last 27 years. And one of the most noble things I've done is working with young men and women to see them accomplish their academic dreams and goals and become leaders. Thank you.
And by the way, this is the last year for our president at Nova. What a legacy that he's leaving behind. Could we just give him a round of applause? Mayor Gomez, good morning. How are you?
Oh, good morning. I see that KC pin.
That's right.
I'm with you. I absolutely also appreciate everything you've done for my NSU. I am an alum of Nova Law School. So, and 23 years now practicing in real estate and all that kind of good stuff. But I'm here with my mayor hat on, and I am the very proud mayor of the city of Tamarac, 72,000 plus and growing. We are not my grandparents' Tamarac anymore. And it is wonderful as we have a lot going on and we invite everybody out there. So I've had the pleasure of being in public service since 2010, and I look forward to continuing on and seeing what we could do to continue making Tamarac great.
That's great. Welcome. Thank you, Mayor. And last but not least, Jonathan.
Thank you, Heiko. Is this on?
No.
It's coming up.
Hello. Oh,
Hello.
there you go. Good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm John Hage. I founded and am the CEO of Charter Schools USA. We are headquartered here in Fort Lauderdale. Today, we have over 10,000 team members operating over 100 schools across almost seven states throughout the Southeast United States. Our school system is an A-rated system. We work on behalf of boards throughout South Florida, including our Coral Springs Charter School, the Renaissance School, Hollywood Academy of Arts and Sciences, which just received National Blue Ribbon status. Thank you.
Okay, welcome. And by the way, Jonathan is a veteran, Green Beret. Do we have any veterans in the room? Could you stand to be recognized? Could you please stand? Thank you for your service. So, You know, I get all my news from Twitter or X, and I saw this quote this morning, and strength lies in diversity, not in similarities. And then I saw on the slide, actually, the logo of Visit Lauderdale that said as a tagline, everyone under the sun. And if you just think about this, in order to build sustainable community, right, it is getting everybody to row in the same direction. Now, sustainability is here to stay, or we may not be. Just think about that. If we don't think in a sustainable way, we will not be here. So today's panel will provide us with some viewpoints covering initiatives underway in schools from K to 12, also higher education, the public sector, as well as the professional service industry. All engaged on our panel today will actually cultivate the vision of a sustainable and diverse community. And why don't we start out with the first question to all of you guys and chime in. When you look at the growth of Greater Fort Lauderdale and Broward County, or even as a South Florida region with over $400 billion of GDP, if we were just a country, just imagine that, has experienced over the last year, what has surprised you the most about the growth? And what does that mean to the region today? I told you I'm starting with a tough question.
Oh, I think it means everything to the region today. If you extrapolate that a little further, the populations of Palm Beach, Broward, Miami-Dade, and Monroe County are over 7 million people. If you look at that as far as if we were a state, we would be about the 18th largest state in the nation. We would even be larger than my native state, Virginia. And I think a lot of people don't realize the GDP that's here and the growth, especially in the technology business. Technology businesses today, the Greater Fort Lauderdale Alliance says it's over 10,000 tech industries in South Florida, not just in Miami, but throughout Palm Beach, Broward, and Miami-Dade. And the growth is estimated at 8% a year. So I think it puts the center in a great position. And the center is Broward County. We're not the tween county. We are the center of 7 million people growing. And by the end of 2030, we'll probably have over 10 million people. We would probably be about the 5th largest state in the nation. So yeah. I think it's great challenges, but great opportunities as well.
Yeah, good point. Thank you, George. Anybody else? Any kind of surprises that you had, that you thought about?
I mean, one thing that comes to mind for me is really the strength of our commercial real estate market. I mean, despite the rising insurance costs, despite the, rising interest rates, we continue to see a demand. I mean, I'm beating a dead horse. We know we're growing. We know we're kind of insulated to what's going on, but we've seen a little bit of a slowdown in certain types of projects and developments, but because we've had such a tremendous backlog of work, we're staying busy. We're staying busy and we're not feeling that downturn as much. So I think that's something that has continued to surprise me all the years that I've lived here.
Okay, very good. Any other thoughts, final thoughts? All right, off we go to the next question. Actually, surprising to me was we brought actually big companies into South Florida, significant wealth. But I think what we're ailing is the workforce, because the quality of life that we are providing is currently not manageable. Because as Kathleen said, most folks spend a lot more of their salary for housing than they actually should. And it's not the 30%. So we need to do better in that particular aspect. And so I wish we would become a region that attracts a labor force again in order to help all these amazing companies that are being built and growing. But we're speaking about diversity, right? Being a minority majority region, think about that. We have 170 different countries that are being represented in this particular region. That is just amazing, right? And when you think about 147 languages being spoken across multi-general households, that is just tremendous. So how have you experienced a mix of backgrounds in your institution and communities, all communities, and how has that actually propelled your area forward? Yeah.
I'm very proud to have a very multicultural, multi-generational city. We are home to 60 mom and pops, small restaurants. What the diverse and inclusive culture that we have is we welcome you into our city and you get to grow and you get to have the small business dream that you've always wanted. And it also has helped us with having more people come into our city. That's why we've grown about 12,000 people in the last decade. And we look forward to the continual change and make us more vital. And forgive me, I know that I'm supposed to be on a 90-second time limit, so that's why I'm kind of hitching. And so I will then turn it over. But I could talk for hours, you know that.
Okay.
I might add also that NSU is a reflection of South Florida. It's a true minority majority university. We have 23,000 students, 70% in graduate and professional programs, and 30% undergrad. But we have about 30% Hispanic or Latin students, 30% Black or African American, 30% Anglo, and 10% Asian, with rising Indian Asian as population. And it is indeed a strength of the university, because diversity is indeed one of our 8 core values. We found that it's been the best place for students to live, to love, to learn how to respect each other because of their knowledge and their skills, and not because somebody may look like them or same religion as they are, but learn how to live together and respect each other. At our university, we keep flags of every student representing a country that they come from. 150 flags grace our hall at University Center, and 62 religions. I never knew there were 62 religions until I became president at NSU, but we can solve the problem of affordable housing by having east-west transportation as well as north-south. And I want students to come to NSU and not go to FIU. And that's from a graduate from our NSU law school that said that. So, but I think majority is this county. And I think that minority majority gives the strength to the county just as much as it gives the strength to Nova Southeastern University.
Very good. Anybody else? How you stirred the pot of diversity?
Well, if no one else is going to speak, I'm going to do a shameless plug.
Go.
February 10th, please come to Tamarac Park, our sports complex, where we will have our One Tamarac, where we celebrate all of our cultures. It is from 4 o'clock to 7:30 p.m. and we will have a little laser light show, but you get to see dancing and everyone's well, they call it costumes. I don't like calling it costumes. Clothing. Get to see artwork. Come participate. Come out and you'll enjoy it.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Well, I can certainly identify with diversity, being an immigrant, first-generation immigrant to this country, Americanized German wannabe Latino with a hip-hop down-under lifestyle that is a little bit of a taste of feng shui, konnichiwa. But anyways, I'm going to move over to the next question. We love you. I know. L'chaim. I have to throw my Jewish background in as well, because I am a little Meshuggah. I mean, I just want to say that out loud. So, Sorry, no, actually, it's a good Meshuggah. So anyways, the economy over the past years, I don't know why I always get sidetracked, but the economy over the past years has experienced shifts. Interest rates have kind of changed, right? Did you notice that? And inflation along with the degree of uncertainty of the future. From your perspective, what are the factors of the greater Fort Lauderdale, in greater Fort Lauderdale, that set the stage for sustainable and diverse growth?
I would say, and look, I'm obviously coming from an educational background, but I'm also one of the probably rare multi-generational natives from this area. Before I came in, I was actually flying in from somewhere else, and this morning and went out on the deck and I walked around the Riverside, and I recalled that this was the first place that I had after my wedding, our honeymoon night. And I also remember looking across at the Stranahan house, and my great grandfather actually built the porch around that house in the early 1900s after it was originally built, maybe 20 years later, and then painted it. And my grandfather was a mailman in this area and delivered mail in Rio Vista before it was Rio Vista, and helped, in that. And then my father was a teacher at Nova High School. So you can imagine from our perspective, my children being fifth generation from this area, what we've seen change. And, some people are challenged by that change. People move out because of that change. Certain folks will just not fit in the new greater Fort Lauderdale, Broward County. On the other hand, I'm a bullish person on this area. I think that the structural issues are being addressed. A little slow. Takes forever for 95 to get expanded. But when you think about the universities, you think about, I also serve on the Broward Health Board, and watch what is happening with a public institution like that, with the South and North Broward hospital districts really coming back stronger than ever, and investing in research hospitals and partnering with others. And then you think about the educational infrastructure in South Florida. The fact is that Florida went from 46th in K-12 education 20 years ago to 4th place right now on most NAEP international and national data. And that's not by chance. That was because people from all sides, party-wise, politically, you name it, got together and said, we're not going to accept towards the bottom. The public system is improved. The private system has grown. The charter, which is a public system run privately, is improving. And competition is creating stronger and stronger results for families. Because at the end of the day, if you want diversity to work, you have to have a place where you inculcate common values at the same time. And those common values can be family and community and health and welfare and all those kind of things you want, everybody wants. And education is that place. That's where it's going to happen. So I am a big, bullish, optimistic person on the future of this area, even with the challenges we have, because I believe it's attracting the right people for the right reasons.
I think you hit the nail on the head, right? And we've talked about this, how we're going to rebuild our workforce in Broward County. And it is through our number one economic driver, which is education. And education is going to be important as we are developing the youth out of our school system, whether it's through a charter program or whether it's through public schools or whether it's through higher education, in getting them to fall in love with us here and staying here versus migrating out. And that's how we already started reducing the labor deficit by investing into our youth today. But George, I know you're ready.
No,
You itching at this.
I ditto everything John said, but I even emphasize greater. It's not just education. It's not just the pre-K through 12. And it's not just the first 4 years of education. It's graduate education that provides the higher paying jobs and is the knowledge-based industry that attracts businesses to. Our graduates in engineering and computing are not just getting a Microsoft certificate. They are getting graduate work in computing and engineering that does the research. And it's what businesses want to have And it's the reason why businesses flock to areas. And it's the higher education, which I tell every one of our undergrads and our recruiting for undergrad get upset with me because they say, you discourage them from wanting to come here because they're going to have to come 3 more years or 4 more years. But that, ladies and gentlemen, is what keeps businesses here. So when you talk about education, it's not just the K through 12. That has to be the foundation. And it's not just those 4 years. It's not the big U or the big gator or the big, it's beyond that 4 years where the knowledge-based industries attract the business. And we are 70% of our student body in that graduate. So education, John, education, 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 and the ability and the opportunity to be able to get there, which is transportation. So they all tie in together. And the last thing is something that I have been so disappointed with in Broward County. We talk about collaboration, collaboration, collaboration. Yet we talk about 31 cities as if they are the center of the universe. Collaboration, Stephen Covey says, is win-win, and that's collaboration. Everybody has to realize that constant competition without, and I'm so happy, we're calling this a Greater Fort Lauderdale Summit because, hey, Miami calls it Miami. Palm Beach calls their 36 cities Palm Beach. But we are 31 separate cities that seem to don't know how to collaborate. And I challenge all of us to start thinking of this as a region and start thinking of us as if we are indeed the 18th largest state in the nation, but we're only as strong as our diversity and our ability to collaborate. And that's our greatest challenge, I feel.
Great call to action.
Yeah.
I saw Mayor Trentalis taking dubious notes on your comments. I mean, he could not write things down fast enough. Thumbs up from him. Michelle.
Yeah, so we've touched on education, transportation, collaboration. I think I want to touch a little bit on the built environment. And I think, one of the biggest factors that sets the stage for sustainable growth in our community is our need to address and prepare for climate change and sea level rise. And lately, because financing has become a little bit harder to come by, we see developers are looking for a little bit more creative solutions to finance their projects. And there are some amazing green financing opportunities out there that are getting a little bit more attention now. Back when money was practically free, projects were popping up overnight. It was really hard to get people to pay attention. But now they're paying more attention to these green financing solutions, which is great news. And it also allows for when you're going after that type of financing, you're not only building a better product for our region that tackles energy efficiency in the built environment, but it's also a lot of times aligned with resilience and making sure that our infrastructure is prepared for these events. And, investing in our in resilient building design and infrastructure is just a surefire way to make sure we are prepared to both adapt and react to these impactful events. So I just want to make sure we cover that because it is something that's so important to not just this county, but this entire region. And in some ways, we're doing a great job. The South Florida Climate Compact has come together to help push our codes. And as we've seen before, back from our past, Florida building codes have adapted in the past, and we have the, most resilient buildings now due to, the history of our hurricanes in this state. So it's not a matter of us not being able to adapt. We've done it before. So it's just a matter of us making sure we continue to prioritize it and push it forward so that we can adapt yet again, both on the resiliency of sea level rise and energy efficiency of our buildings.
That's excellent, Michelle. And it takes me right to Mayor Gomez, actually, because when you look at a city that's on a change and on new development, your city grew by 20% in population, and it required your city actually to think about redevelopment and really upset the apple cart and really change things differently. Can you just talk to that a little bit and how that made you more sustainable and diverse?
Definitely. Part of it is that the city took a great deal of time from 2015 to 2018 to rewrite our development code and to work with our developers and to work with people in the business community and actually in our residents to see what would be better to make it easier for someone to come in. We know we are built out and we know we need to redevelop. We did not do a CRA, good, better, and different. We only have a certain amount of parcels that we control, and we are in the process of looking to see what we can do to leverage those parcels and see what we can do with a public-private partnership, because we do know that we can't finance it all and we can only build so much, right? So we do need the help of others, and it is a good thing, and it has helped us grow. But it also helps when we have our plazas, which were built. We just turned 60, woohoo to 60, but we are going through our first wave of having to do some changes. Our retail is not dead. It's not all online, but our footprint needs to change. How do we help our landlords who own these properties that have, this was a big topic yesterday when we had some conversation with ULI, thank you very much, about parking. We don't want everything as a parking lot, yet people are not getting out of their cars, especially since we do not have any transportation yet going from the west to the east. Because as much as some of us would like to be on Brightline, by the time we get over to Barrett, we might as well just drive to Palm Beach and to Miami at this rate. And we don't have enough access yet. These are all things that we got to grow together to think about. But we are doing everything we can to make sure that we are business friendly, developer friendly, residential friendly, because we still have our flavor. We are not the sleepy little bedroom community we used to be. Not everybody is all retired. We're 48 years average age. Yes, I'm above average at this point. I started out below average, then I got average. Now I'm above. But it's great how we are growing, and we are trying to make sure that we have our local activity center we're working on. We're working on our density for the smart areas and the smart corridors while still keeping that hometown flavor where we need it to be in our city. And I'm just going to touch on one other thing. We have to add in the educational sector, vocational. Not everybody is ready to go straight to a workforce. And those who go into our military, thank you, and bless you for doing so. But we are a bit of everything. And that is what helps make our cities great, which our cities being great make us a nice, beautiful 31 flavors of ice cream in the region. So thank you very much.
I agree with everything that you said, except the woohoo is 60. I would like to get my 40s back, to be very frank. Everything is breaking on me. The older I get, I have no idea. But you led in perfectly to the subject matter of education, and I want to get both of the educators on the mic here, and then start out with Jonathan. As you are headquartered in Fort Lauderdale, needless to say, you really started expanding the educational enterprises and really started looking at partnership with universities, hospital systems, corporations, developers, and creating more housing opportunities in Florida. What role can your organization in particular, your charter school system, play in making the growth in the area more sustainable?
So at first I have to define what a charter is. So I think actually most people don't know what a charter school is, believe it or not. A charter school is a public school. It's funded by public dollars. It's accountable to results. It's overseen by a nonprofit board. In fact, several of my board members are here. Those boards can be city governments. Those boards can be universities. Those boards can be local volunteers who have an interest in seeing the education in their area maybe be different or innovative. Charter schools are not here to replace traditional public schools. Most of the time, they actually complement those schools. They fit a need or a niche. If you have kids like I have, they're all different. They need educational environments that reflect that diversity. So a charter school, and as a private organization that helps run those schools and is accountable for those results and hires those teachers, you can imagine what I'm falling into, which is how can I hire enough teachers who are making wages below what is able to pay for today's housing? One innovation is recently one that we announced with the city of Aventura, one of our clients, where we're going to be setting aside about 20% of the new development in that town, which is, of course, one of the most high-rise towns in the entire country, actually, per square mile, to set aside housing for hero housing for police officers and teachers who work in that market, who help contribute back to that market. We believe that this collaboration is a beginning of a trend. We're working with multiple developers throughout the state and locally to design schools as a part of the work, live, play. You know, education
And
used to
visit.
be, right?
And
It used to
visit.
be and it used to be kind of a thing where if I went to school and I grew up in Plantation, which is where I would, drive my bike or walk to school. Well, most families' kids don't do that anymore, right? For safety reasons, but actually not just for that reason. It's also because that often these schools have zones that are not necessarily related to the market they're in. They're in conflict with some of the city programs because the city has little to say about where those schools go and how they're zoned. And then you have these different bureaucracies fighting over where kids go to school. And I think the school choice market has created a new dynamic where families choose to go to the school that best fits their students for whatever reason. Maybe it's location, maybe it's the kind of education they're getting or whatnot. And so I think the future is designing, building, and creating sustainable communities where education is now at the table at the beginning of that redevelopment. It's not too late. We do it right now. We go into urban areas and rethink it. The Hollywood Academy of Arts and Science is a perfect example of that. It sits on Young Circle. It was built there while the old bread building was sitting there forever, if you know where that is. And then we had to watch it come down and now the new one coming up. And it's been an amazing process to be a center point in that city where the mayor and the commissioners and the community loves that that's their school. It attracts and now as a national award-winning school, it's produced the results that helps those businesses want to live, work, play there, and families in that area and values of those properties have gone up because they also have a place where their kids can go to school. Because we still know the number one thing a realtor will look at when they're selling an apartment or a condo or a home is what is the schools like in that area. And so education has to be at the forefront of the thinking, not the afterthought where you just give them 10 acres and go build us a school. That's the old model. The new model is what is the educational environment? And like Dr. Hanbury said, not just K through 12, early learning, K through 12, and lifelong learning, which includes both, yes, apprenticeships and hands-on, and as well as education, high education, and integrating it in ways we never did before. The local economy here is hungry for that. They're hungry for it. Last thing I'll say is I've been meeting with some of the largest developers in the country, and they all say the same thing. If we can't produce an educational environment that's as equal to or better than where they're coming from, Chicago, New York, Connecticut, all these other markets, right, which are moving here in many ways, they're not going to take their C-suite here. The private schools are already full with a waiting list. There's not a lot of room, and the best of the traditional public schools area, the charters have all my charters in this area are all with waiting lists. Thousands of students on waiting lists to get in the existing schools we have. We don't even have seats for those new ones. So we are going to have to be really thoughtful about how we plan our next stage where education's at the table early on in that design.
Jonathan, right on. And again, I always learn from Jonathan. I thought the last thing that the realtor looked at was his commission check, but that's besides the point. George, your $6 billion economic empire. What are your thoughts on that subject matter? Because I know you've been sitting there and there was smoke coming out of your head. I was watching you.
No, I really feel blessed. Nova Southeastern's only 60 years old this year. And I've been blessed that I've been there almost 30 years, the last 30 years, seeing the growth. We started right here on Las Olas Boulevard at 232 East Las Olas. It's now the retention pond for FAU on Las Olas that but it was a storefront. And in '67, it moved out to Davie on Foreman Field. Ham and Captain Dr. Charles Foreman with the first 100 acres. That was the training base for George H.W. Bush during World War II. So a lot has happened, and we're still not even known too much here in Broward County. And yet we are indeed 5,500 employees. And because we're predominantly graduate and professional, they're higher paid employees. And yesterday's vocational student requires graduate education. What used to be a automotive mechanic is now computer science to run an automobile, and physician assistant or anesthesiology assistant or nurse practitioner, advanced nurse practitioner, all require almost the same basic science as physicians. And I assure you, that is providing and helping to be that knowledge-based industry I talked about. But we need support because we're private, not for profit. We don't have tax dollars supporting us. We only have tuition or build an endowment. But yet we've grown in the last 60 years, at least the last 15, from unranked on U.S. News and World Report to about 10 years ago, we bumped into the top 200. Now we are close to the top third of doctoral research universities. And by 2025, we hope to have our endowment back up to around 300 million. And by 2030, we want to see $1 billion. Now, $1 billion is about what University of Miami's endowment is. They too are private, not for profit, but they're about 50 years older than Nova Southeastern, and they are 90% undergrad. So we've got 23,000 students. We're the largest private not-for-profit in the state of Florida. We're over a $2 billion balance sheet, 5,500 employees, and the value of our property in Davie has gone up triple, quadruple in value. The hospital that's located there now by HCA and new apartments building on our property. Can you imagine that because of NSU, people paid $5 million an acre to build platform parking for apartments? $5 million an acre. They bought 5 acres, $25 million. Now, is that not a knowledge-based industry that because we are growing and because of the hospital and because we are building a comprehensive cancer destination center and a hotel conference center on that 300 acres, we will become an overnight success. And everybody will say, damn, I didn't know that was here. So we've got a lot of challenges, but we want to embrace and respond to AI. We are building over a $60 million AI simulation center. That's not just for our health professions. We have 7 programs, and we are the only university that has 2 medical schools in the state of Florida, and one of 4. By 2, I'm saying We have an MD program and a DO for primary care, and then MD, PhD for research. But we also have the other healthcare, as well as a phenomenal business college, education college. There's over 300 superintendents in this nation, and many charter school that got their doctorate of education from Nova Southeastern University, and school teachers and faculty members throughout the nation. We also have the largest nursing school in the state of Florida, and by 2025, we'll be awarding degrees to physicians greater than any other university in the nation. And I bet you didn't know that. But we have been doing it quietly and with no fanfare, but solely on students by word of mouth and social media, knowing we got to get to Nova Southeastern University. We want to get that graduate degree. We want to be leaders in our discipline. And you know what? Businesses are following the graduates instead of the graduates following the businesses. And we're helping to keep those high-paying jobs here in Broward County.
Thank you, George. Very good. George was allowed to only speak for 2 minutes, and I think he surpassed that. But anyways, we are a panelist of a fast food restaurant right now. So
Don't
just
give me the
imagine
mic
that.
there.
Yeah, I know, but you are in the fast, so I'm going to keep you last. And you have only 30 seconds. If you were to create a recipe of success for sustainable and diverse growth in our county to attract a place to live, work, play, and visit, give me the ingredients of that recipe for success. Jonathan, first.
Public-private partnerships based upon long-term investment, meaning that those players that understand the market that have already been there or know they're going to be there for the long term, creating that public-private partnership. It's talked about, but it's not utilized enough. The power of that with private enterprise, with the public, that is in alignment with their vision, with their people, is a very powerful thing on any platform.
Very good. Mayor. 30 seconds.
So I'm just going to say ditto and then add communication. Open it up. A lot of conversation. People are scared. When you have not in my backyard, it's all because they're scared. They don't understand the why. They figure it's going to hurt them. And most of the time, they don't want to understand that it's not going to hurt them. So let's open up the communication, make sure that everybody, I hate the word transparency, but it's a transparency. It's out there. Come get the information. Don't be afraid of it. Let's do it together. Make sure our codes are viable for people to be able to come and achieve the public-private partnerships that we are talking about.
All right, George, 30 seconds. 30 seconds, George.
I don't think we need anything. We've got all the ingredients. What I encourage people to do is to go someplace else and then come back here, because you can realize we've got everything. We've got an average temperature of 74 degrees. We've got sun. We've got diversity. We've got all of the ingredients to really make everything. I tell you, I moved here in 1930, and
I'm going to ring the bell in a second here. And don't tell me it was from Virginia, because it's a 9 times.
I'm not planning on going back to Virginia.
Michelle.
Yes. So I think making sure that we have, resilience and sustainability at the forefront of our building designs is a huge deal in our built environment. As we see, responding to this stuff retroactively is a lot more expensive. And now that we have, the Inflation Reduction Act has passed a lot of legislation that has allowed there to be tax credits and incentives available for the built environment. So take advantage of these. A lot of buildings that are getting built to today's energy code in Florida are already going to qualify for these incentives. So use that money to plan ahead, to make a better product so that we have a resilient built environment to sustain all of the things we mentioned today: education, jobs, and companies coming to our region.
All right. Very good. Let's hear it for our master chefs.